Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Sorry for the delay in posting. I was pretty badly sick this past week and I was in no condition to be working on YouTube videos. Anyway, today we are going to be discussing why V's sacrifice in episode 6 wasn't as bad as it seemed. Let's go. This video is going to use a recap of her character to display why it wasn't bad, so we're going to work in chronological order. Sacrifice is also, of course, improved since we had the understanding in episode 8 that she only wanted to protect N throughout the series, so I will be using that knowledge as well. I said I will work in chronological order, but I do want to introduce two important things real quick that are relevant throughout the early episodes, even though they weren't introduced until later in the series. If you really think about it, though, Maid V did exist earlier than V in the series, so it's kind of is still chronological. The first important thing I want to keep in mind is the whole N and V crush thing. We get introduced to it in episode 1 by N, but we also see in episode 2 when their hands spark in the manor. This is important to understanding why N and V might be implied to have feelings, even if it is never expanded upon in the show. We at least know it had an origin. It is entirely possible that V likes N throughout the series, as I'll get into, while N outgrows these feelings very quickly when he meets Uzi. Just an important thing to keep in mind. The second thing is a really nice detail that's hard to notice that I might be stretching at times, but I really just wanted to include it because I think it's cool to include. So throughout the series, we see V without glasses, but we also see in episode 5 she can't see without them, and this is just an important detail that I might use throughout this my explanation. Now that that is out of the way, episode 1. This episode introduces V to the audience as crazy when she initially kills a worker drone and says she still feels nothing with a little wink. The first impression we get of V as a viewer is that she doesn't care and is a very callous person. She also pretends to not know who N is and she flies away. We then get to know that N supposedly likes V, but not much else. This is again probably because we see the spark that they had back in the mansion, and while N doesn't have his memories, he probably does remember the connection and the feelings he might have had for V back then, even without those memories. Okay, so obviously our first impressions of V are she's crazy, and we know N likes her. The next important thing V does in this episode is she addresses N in the hallway after he breaks through the doors and kills a bunch of WDF members. There are two possible theories I've seen for this part when she talks to N, and I like both of them. So we saw earlier that N was, or V would never remember N's name, and we also see that N is shocked when she says his name here. So this can be taken two different ways. By complimenting him, she can, one, be slightly letting through her own feelings for him, or simply finally be showing she's a little bit nice to him. And this hints that she isn't completely insane or unfeeling. The second possibility of this is the whole glasses thing. And yes, I said it's a stretch. It's possible earlier on she actually didn't recognize N when she said, "Oh God, who are you?" and flew off for the first time. Then she knew for certain it was N in the hallway when they got closer and followed. And she followed Jay, knowing that they were going after N, so she actually addressed him by his name. Either way, it connects to one of those two things, and one of the two important things I said to remember about her. After this, the last important thing she does in the episode is in the fight. Again, there's two ideas I have here. One overarching theme is she probably was never trying to kill N because she felt for him or liked him at least a little bit. She misses a shot here, and this can play into both my points. She either missed because she didn't want to actually kill him completely and because she likes him, or because she can't see well enough to aim. We also always see her trying to fight with swords because being up close would probably be a lot less hindered by eyesight, which I can vouch for as someone who has bad vision myself. Contacts do wonders. Okay, so that was a lot of rambling. So to recap, what I'm actually trying to say here is episode 1 introduces V as a cold and heartless killer who N likes, but she doesn't seem to like him back. However, upon rewatch, we can find evidence of her caring for him. We also possibly get subtle hints of her not being able to see without her glasses. Not too complicated, right? Episode 2. I already mentioned the flashback, so let's skip that part. The first thing V does after this is talk to Uzi. She says that she supposedly hasn't seen the Solver before when she addresses Uzi, even though we know she has. But since she hates Uzi at the time, it easily boils down to her wanting to make Uzi upset, or V just being mean to Uzi. On top of this, we see Uzi then lean against Anne a minute later, and patting her head and being protective of her. I've never really seen anyone mention this, but V gives a little frown, which I always interpreted as almost jealousy, as we see her liking of N coming through. And she is upset he cares about Uzi, a worker drone, who she hates at this time. The last thing we get is her placating N at the end of this episode when she is broken free. She gives an offhanded mean comment, but shows she cares about N again and pretends she is still chained up to not upset him farther. We also see her cross her arms in a posture where she is clearly trying hard to pretend like she doesn't care that he's upset, but this posture clearly indicates to me that she is upset, that he is upset, and thus she cares about him. So, in recap, episode 2 expands on episode 1 by going beyond her just being crazy and by showing more evidence that she cares for N, and also develops her dislike of Uzi. I know I'm talking about her care for N a lot, but trust me, it's really important later. In episode 3, V doesn't really do anything until she attempts to convince N to free her for prom murder. N obviously disagrees with this, but her small attempt is likely just her trying to see if she can get free without having to take his head off. However, she sees the workers as a threat, and so decides it is necessary to momentarily decapitate him so she can get inside. Once inside, we see her planning to kill the whole prom, when she is suddenly crowned prom queen by Lizzie. She accepts this, which is a turn that shows her first obvious movements away from a psychopathic killer into someone who truly has depth and feelings behind them. It's quickly revealed by Lizzie, however, that it was a trap, and Doll attacks V. She then gets shown the flashback, and V has a weird expression flash across her face here. It almost seems like she might regret just a little bit what she did to Doll. Then Anna and Uzi save her from Doll, and she shoots Doll in the back of the head. This is again at point-blank range. This plays into my vision theory. Anyway, since Uzi saved her life and N trusts/likes Uzi, we see V actually begrudgingly work with them for the first time to investigate Doll's apartment. Once there, however, she again pretends to act insane to cover up how she doesn't want N to get his painful memories back and to protect him from sin. Obviously, as I said earlier, I will take into account the fact her ultimate goal is to protect N from sin. That is ultimately what she was trying to do throughout all these early episodes. At this point in time, she believes Sin is unstoppable and is willing to do whatever it takes to protect N because she cares for him. And also at this point, N likely has more feelings for Uzi than V, but that doesn't mean N and V still don't care about each other anymore. Okay, so to recap episode 3, we get our first glimpse at V without the total wacko craziness personality and see her begrudgingly join N and Uzi since they saved her. However, she is still being secretive to protect N from Sin. Episode 4 and 5 are kind of go hand in hand, and I'll explain why in a second. In episode 4, V continues to work with N and Uzi while still acting a little bit crazy. The first important moment in this episode is when V confronts Uzi in the cabin. She tries to get Uzi to stay focused on their mission to chase Doll, but is also just mean to Uzi. She gives a weird warning to Uzi and scratches her before she leaves. This shows V's insecurity about the past and the solver because she knows Uzi is becoming something similar to what Sin was, and she's concerned for herself and for N. The next important thing is when Uzi gets the arrow shot at her by Brayden, and it turns into the weird blushy thing. This terrifies V, and she immediately wants to kill Uzi again because she wants to protect N from the past and Sin. N tries to stop her and talks her out of killing Uzi for the moment. And here we can see that she's listening to N because, again, she respects his opinions and feelings. Finally, Uzi transforms into the feral form and starts killing all the campers. V saves Lizzie's life. She then finds the need to clarify that she wasn't saving Lizzie. But I mean, come on, she totally was. Wow, look at that. She isn't totally heartless. Anyway, then she calls Uzi Sin when Uzi is trying to talk to her. And Uzi asks to talk to N, and she says no, because she clearly plans to kill her. Here, though, is where episode 5 can come in. We know that V went through the exact same sort of failed transformation back in the mansion. She's seeing it happening to Uzi and thinks she's going to end up under Sin's control. And so, she thinks she needs to eliminate Uzi to protect herself and N. She's beat by Uzi, obviously, and N saves her. V then sits down to heal when N and Uzi have their therapy session in the sky. When they fall back down, V is ready to kill the possibly possessed Uzi, but sees N is holding her, and Uzi hugs him, so she stands down for N's sake. She obviously still doesn't like their relationship, and definitely at this point has outgrown his feelings for V and instead likes Uzi. I don't think V really likes N in that way anymore either, but she is upset he keeps taking the side of Uzi, when she might end up uncovering the past and endangering both of their lives. So episode 4 in recap shows V's concern for N's safety when she wants to eliminate Uzi before she can be controlled by Sin. This is just furthering her goal of protecting N. One last thing to mention about episode 5, even though I talked about the flashback already, is the ending. I see so many people, when citing that V's sacrifice is bad, state that she pulls a chainsaw on Uzi here at the end of episode 5, which means, oh, she hates her. This is one of the most obvious jokes in the entire series. Like, you can't watch the scene and not understand Liam Vickers clearly included this as a joke. This is not a serious threat by V, and therefore is not a valid piece of evidence you can cite as a reason the V's sacrifice is bad. Like, I want you to legitimately watch that scene and tell me, oh yeah, no, V was dead serious. She was going to kill Uzi. It's a joke. Anyway, finally, we reach episode 6. One thing to keep in mind is episode 8 revealed that V knew Tessa was Sin all along. This will be relevant in a second. So obviously we see the group chasing Doll into the lab and all that stuff happens, but the important thing to keep in mind is remembering episode 4. Again, N basically convinced V not to kill Uzi just because she has the Fault Solver's powers. V now knows that Sin is already on the planet as Tessa. That's where that relevance comes in. This means killing Uzi at this point would accomplish nothing because their past is already caught up to them. The whole reason she wanted to kill Uzi in episode 4 was to prevent Sin from taking over, possibly getting control, but Sin's already here at this point, so why kill Uzi now? This is a massive change because, again, V is now trusting N's judgment and his feelings, which means she will now trust Uzi. Now, the first relevant part of episode 6 is when Bo cuts free V right before the Raptors kill him. Instead of fleeing after this, she tries to save Uzi. N cares about Uzi, and therefore V cares about Uzi. Uzi then uses Null, likely through the possession of Sin, to kill the rest of the Raptors and save V. We also see her still unconscious and hurt, though. We see a flash of pity on V's face here. V understands what it is like to be controlled by Sin, and so she now feels bad for the fact that Uzi has to go through this too. Instead of being focused on murder, she realizes, oh, wow, this is tough. Even I've been through this and I understand. She then puts Uzi on her back, and she seems less protective of her when Tessa comes in and tries to take a look at Uzi. The last thing I'm going to mention before the sacrifice is V makes one last offhanded mean comment towards N and Uzi when they hold hands. However, in the past, she probably would have said something a lot meaner than just you. And so again, just hints she likes both of them a little bit more now. Here, then, Doll executes her plan. The group tries to find a way to escape, and Tessa looks like she's about to get shot when V, out of nowhere, catches a fucking bullet. And of course, she's wearing her glasses, because there is no way she could be able to see well enough to catch a bullet without them. The fight, of course, then happens, and the whole group gets into the elevator except for V. She gets caught up in the moment and takes down Sparky. Then, though, another raptor breaks the elevator control thingy or whatever, and the elevator starts rising. It's time for her sacrifice. Okay, so in conclusion, at this point in time, we can see that V is on good terms with N and Uzi. It's clearly illustrated throughout the series that she cares deeply for N. It is revealed in episode 8 that all she wanted to do was protect him. Now, we also see that N cares for Uzi, and V has been convinced by N to at least not hate Uzi. By taking the time to consider what Uzi is going through, V actually realizes that Uzi is going through the same thing she did back in the manor and relates to her, which builds connection between them. She doesn't want the whole group to die to the Raptors, and her whole goal of protecting N from Sin is basically failed at this point. So, in this last moment of desperation, she realizes that with her powers, maybe Uzi has a chance to fight Sin and save N from a horrible fate. With this realization that Uzi might be the only chance she and N have, she quickly decides to trust N and therefore trust Uzi to maybe fight the Solver and win. This is why V trusts Uzi and makes the sacrifice. So ultimately, V's connection with N and her want to protect him from Sin are the reason the sacrifice does make sense. It isn't obvious on the surface why she changes the way she does, and I'm not disagreeing with the fact that the sacrifice isn't perfect. It is far from perfect. It could have used so much more development. However, if you really take the time to think about it, it has explanation, and you can understand how V developed and why it makes more sense than you think it does at first. I hope this just helped. V is my favorite character in Murder Drones, and I just don't like it when I see slander about her sacrifice all the time. So I had to make this video, just for her sake. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'm traveling this week, so I probably won't have another video out for close to 2 weeks. But I hope you guys see why V is so awesome and cool. If you actually watched this all the way through, though, seriously, I appreciate it. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.